This hearing is a joint undertaking by the Subcommittee on the Constitution and the Subcommittee on Federal Courts because our country is facing a constitutional crisis, a full-blown judicial assault on the separation of powers that strikes at the very foundation of the Republic. What we're witnessing is the rise of judicial lawfare from the bench. One unelected district judge sitting in a courtroom in San Francisco or Boston or Baltimore can now issue a nationwide injunction that ties the hands of the President of the United States for all 330 million Americans. That's not law, that's judicial tyranny.
Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse. No.
I've read your stuff and I've read your writings. I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say, because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids.
Senator Kennedy, I was not familiar with your game. This guy, hey, I love this guy. This guy's hilarious. He's funny. He calls BS. And I wanted to cover this because I've been talking about the problem with judicial activism and how that one of the biggest problems that I have with liberals and many people on the left is that they let their political persuasions corrupt and interfere with their profession, their craft, essentially, right? They mire their ideologies into their work, right? They just it's almost like how they have to always show where they're leaning, where their political leanings are. And this is why it's so easy when you go to a workplace, you know who's a liberal and you know who's a non-liberal at least. Because liberals love to show that they're a liberal, right? It's almost like a ritual, almost like a way for them to virtue signal. And one example that Mr. Senator Kennedy just did was he eviscerated this law professor. She's a law professor for UPenn, I believe, University of Pennsylvania, I believe. And she's there to advise the committee on judicial warfare, injunctions, and the Republicans are bringing out good points about how, hey, your bias affects your analysis. And this is one of the reasons why I said liberal bias is dangerous. Liberal bias destroys the knowledge system in our country, because in the day, media is a type of knowledge distribution, right? If you think of Amazon as being a products distribution, logistics, media operates in the same manner. The media can control and filter what kind of knowledge the public is exposed to. And this is one of the reasons why I started this channel, honestly, is that I want to bring attention to stuff like this and cover it in a way that I don't see other people cover it, right? We need to talk about the ideas of this stuff. Can a judge, aka a referee, actively participate in a game of sport that he is supposed to regulate and officiate? No. Every game in history, we know, hey, the refs, you shouldn't be able to buy out the refs. Everyone sees this as cheating, correct? So how is it that 330 million people voted in the 2024 election, right? Both presidential candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, went out there, campaigned, pitched to the American people their vision of how they should run the country. Americans made a choice because at the end of the day, this is a government for, by, and to the people, correct? So if the people is at the end of the day the ultimate decision maker about how the country should be run, who is a judge to go and interfere with the concepts of the presidents, especially if the president is doing something within his power? And that's something that these court injunctions have not been able to prove. One, for the Biden administration, for instance, I believe that was a proper way of how a judge stops a president from doing something that's not in his lane. Hey, Congress controls the purse. Joe Biden, you can't forgive student loans. That's the Congress's job. Boom. Okay, I agree. You point to something in the Constitution. You point to how our governmental system works, and you're saying that, hey, Joe Biden, this action you're trying to take for giving student loans is outside of your bounds. It's outside of your jurisdiction. You can't do that. Good. It's the same way like a ref calling someone, oh, you're on time, you out of bounds. You went out of the line of play. You're out. Okay, I agree. But for this judge, oh no, it's bad because it's a president I like. And this is how bias corrupts institutions. Now, I'm not trying to say that liberal bias is an inherent problem. I'm just saying that a lot of these professions, liberals come in, they crowd these institutions, they come into these institutions, then they create hiring practices that filter out people who don't go along. They're not a cultural fit, right? They use these little terms, these things. This is why DEI became so rampant in corporate America, because in a lot of corporate America, it's ran by a lot of liberals. I'm just being honest here. It's ran by a lot of liberals. I'm just being honest. So the fact that these people dominate this stuff, and this is the problem when they throw these little diversity crap on us, is that they only believe in a superficial version of diversity, but they don't want to put diversity of thought in their organizations, in their news coverage to balance out their bias. And they're going to be mad that the people do not trust the media and they don't believe the media is balanced and fair. When you see the outcomes, 89% of the time you cover Donald Trump negatively, how are you balanced? This is some of the concerns people have. And I want to play this clip again. I have another segment with Senator Kennedy, how he talks about the concerns. He's like, yo, I'm scared for you're teaching this biased way of interpretation of the law to our children, because she's a college professor. She's a college law professor at the University of Pennsylvania. And these are some of the things that she was quoted as saying, and now she's embarrassed about it and she's trying to deny it. Let's take a look.
Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take it your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but
all right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
Sir, I'm very skeptical. If it's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical of some members of the Supreme Court.
You made that statement, aren't you?
I'm
you're an officer of the
Senator, it doesn't
court.
sound like something that I would say.
You know what I'm embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in the classroom,
on
sir.
On your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful of federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
So without further ado, I want to get more into the specifics of this hearing, because this lady is very interesting, right? You're going to get caught on her doublespeak a lot. And this is some of the reasons why I honestly believe that Americans don't trust Democrats, right? Yes, Republicans are not perfect. I understand that. I know that. But I rather get like Republicans arguing amongst each other than getting a Democrat involved in the conversation, right? Because you saw my last video, right? You saw the kind of discussions that conservatives and Republicans are having amongst each other, that I feel like there's so much like different views on the Republican side that it's almost like there's no need for the Democrats, because they don't offer anything. Like I'm being honest, like with my feelings here, right? The Democrats don't offer anything, right? They offer something for globalists. They offer something for foreigners, right? Yeah. But in the interest of Americans, they have nothing for us. And they want power in our country? Hell no. Hell no. Because every problem, it seems like, in this country comes from the bad ideas or the bad policies from the Democratic Party, and they still trot them out and act like it's good ideas. They don't believe in any principles. And you're going to see that here. All they care about is political practicality. The means justifies the ends. The ends justify the means. My bad. The end goal is, hey, we want political power. I don't care if in one case I got mad that the judicial court got involved in Biden's thing, but I'm happy that they did the same thing to Donald Trump. And all we're asking is, okay, should a judge do it or not do it? Pick one. That's all we're asking Democrats to do. That's all we're asking leftists to do. Pick one. Either we all can do it or nobody can do it.
You said in response to a nationwide injunction on the Biden FDA's mifepristone rules, and I quote, "This injunction's a travesty for principles of democracy, notions of judicial impartiality, and the rule of law."
I think I've been consistent today. That was issued by Judge Kaczmarek in a single judge division. They're a problem. Those are a problem.
Him personally? Wait,
no.
So your testimony is if it's issued by Judge Kaczmarek, it's bad?
No, sir.
It's personal?
That is not my testimony.
So is the problem with the injunction? You were criticizing the universal injunction
issued by a judge in a single judge division. I've been very clear today that those are a problem.
By a Republican judge in a Republican division, then it's bad.
No, Senator.
Otherwise, it's fine.
No, Senator. I think that single judge divisions
What is the
are a problem.
principal difference? I'm looking for a principle. I understand you hate the president. I understand you love all of these rulings against him. You and I both know that's not a principle. You're a lawyer. What's the principle that divides when issuing a nationwide injunction is okay when it's not? When the Biden administration was subject to nationwide injunctions, you said that they were travesties for the principle of democracy. You didn't say the referral to Judge Kaczmarek was a travesty. You said his injunction was a travesty for principles of democracy. Yeah. So, in other words, the translation is just you didn't like the outcome. Is that right?
No.
Yeah, that's how you should take it. That's how a critically thinking individual should take it. And one of the things I think gets at the heart of a lot of the conversations when I see in the chat and in the comment section, you guys were saying, I know a lot of you guys said that, hey, look, Kenny, Republicans ain't perfect. Democrats are fake, but Republicans are spineless. Republicans don't want to do something. I understand all that. All they like to do is look good, not do good. I understand that. But they're more, how do you say it, malleable, right? Like, end of the day, who gave us Donald Trump? Republican Party. So if we want change, it'll essentially there's two options in my view. This is how I see politics. Let me know if you agree with me. Either you take over the Republican Party, which is in effect kind of what we're kind of doing with the MAGA movement, or you just accept status quo. Like, end of the day, change is not going to happen if you just not participate. And that's one of the things that I kind of try to tell, like, like other Black independents that just swear off politics is that, yeah, politics may not be able to fix your life, but they can help you. Like, they incentivize your independence or they incentivize your dependence, right? Democrats are incentivizing dependency on the government, and conservative Republican policies, if you get people with the spine to enact them, incentivize independence. And I'd rather have Black America, Asian America, Hispanic America, Indian American, independent of the government. We all have the same playing field. We all have the same opportunities. We're all held to the same standard. That's the country I want. Because I don't care if you're Indian. I don't care if you're Asian. I care if you're American. That's it. Where your loyalty lies, this country or somewhere else. That's all I care about. That's why I call myself a nationalist populist. That's my true political position. I'm not I don't know. But this is where my nationalism come out. I'll say, okay, so you get mad that the nation could choose this president, and you're injuncting him based on things subjective, and that's where it's coming down to. And if it's up to subjective opinion for the judiciary to get involved or try to get in the way of a president, you corrupt the office, right? And this example was a Republican judge injunction on Biden. But one of the things that lead me to believe that his case was more substantial is he probably referenced something in the Constitution. He's not making the judgment himself. He's not saying, based on our purview, we don't believe this is an emergency. He goes, no, according to this thing here, he's pointing to something outside of himself as a reason for his injunction on Joe Biden. That's the difference, I think. But on principle, if you're saying that judges shouldn't be able to interfere with who the people gave the power to, right? Commander in chief. Okay, I agree. Okay, hey, I don't like what Biden's doing, but the people voted Biden in. Biden has the power. President over the judge. Done. And many Americans see it the same way I do. I saw in the comment section, someone said, yes, I agree. The president should be able to override the judge. Because 300 plus million people voted for this man versus a judge maybe a few thousand, 10,000 people voted for. What's 10,000 compared to 330 million people? Big bank take little bank.
Senator, look, we're talking about, I don't think Article 3 precludes this form of relief. So we are talking about prudential considerations.
Prudential meaning political?
No.
Then
no.
give me, so far I have yet to hear it. You've been questioned by multiple senators. I have yet to hear a principle other than the fact when you like the ruling, you think it's great to apply it nationally, including non-parties. When you don't like the ruling, it is a travesty for the principles of democracy, notions of judicial impartiality, and the rule of law.
Look, Senator, I'll say I think I am self-aware enough to know that my view of the underlying legal question, I am sure colors my perception of the remedy. I think that we should all acknowledge that. And yet I do think
and
that
why shouldn't we stop nationwide injunctions for everybody?
I think there is.
Hey, I agree with her too, right? And this is one of the core ethos of my channel is that an honest bias, someone who's honest with their bias is better than someone who's dishonest about their objectivity. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
That's what we're talking about today.
Because I'm not willing to leave without relief non-parties who are
you're
injured.
not willing to leave without the ability to bind President Trump.
No, I
right?
think that.
I mean, when it's
believe,
Biden, it's okay.
No.
When it's Biden, oh, it's a travesty. When it's Trump in office, it's no holds barred, whatever it takes, right?
I believe in
like
a powerful.
What was it that President Biden's staff said? We've got to do undemocratic, unconstitutional things to save democracy. Why is this the same
I believe
thing?
in a powerful president. I do believe in presidential power, but power and constraint are not at fundamental odds.
What is the principle?
Power.
What is the principle? The legal principle. You've referenced prudence.
You know what I find funny about a lot of these Democrats is that they believe almost in this is why a lot of Democrats are vague about like principles and stuff, because it makes it harder for them to pick a convenient position for like something that is politically expedient for them. That's one thing I notice a lot about a lot of leftists.
You've referenced the judges you don't like. What's the principle of when an injunction binding non-parties, which was never done in this country before the 1960s? And let's see the chart, the Trump chart, which was done really only once Trump came into office for the first time. You don't think this is a little bit anomalous? You don't think that's a little bit strange?
A very plausible explanation, Senator, you have to consider is that he is engaged in much more lawless activity than other presidents.
Lawless activity. Lawless activity. Lawless activity. Oh, just use words to justify my political expedient position, right? Making excuses. This is why Democrats stand for D for deceitful. Right? This is how you come across as deceptive. This one, when people tell you when they walk away from the Democratic Party, they always talk about how they were tricked into voting Democrat. And this is how Democrats get that branding. As an independent, this is how Democrats get that branding. And then when their supporters come in trying to lecture you about, oh, I can't believe you trust Donald Trump. I can't believe you trust the news. That's how most non-Democrats are going to bite back at Democratic supporters. I can't believe you trust the news. Didn't they cover up your guy health thing? These people got fooled by an 80-year-old dementia man, and you want me to trust them on their analysis about the economy? Ha! These people are shocked that Donald Trump is still trusted more on the economy than the Democratic Party? Huh? Like these people, y'all don't make sense. Word salad. Democrats are the party of word salad. Throw buzzwords. Lawless activity. Be specific. What is lawless about what Donald Trump is doing? Anytime you ask for clarification from a Democrat, that's when they start crumbling.
This was never used before the 1960s, and suddenly Democrat judges decide we love the nationwide injunction. And then when Biden comes to office, no, actually.
It's Republican appointees as well, Senator. And the 1960s is where some scholars locate the beginning
Can you
of this.
identify
But
one
others,
before then?
Mila Sahoni, who's another scholar of universal injunction, suggests 1913 is actually the first. There were others in the 20s.
The Republic endured for 150 years before there was a nationwide injunction.
Well, the federal government was doing a lot less until 100 years ago. So there's many things that have changed in the last 100 or the last 50 years.
So long as it is a Democrat president in office, then we should have no nationwide injunctions. If it's a Republican president, then this is absolutely fine, warranted, and called for. How can our system of law survive on those principles, Professor?
I think a system in which there are
no
meaningful constraints on the president is a very dangerous system
That's
of law.
not what you thought when Joe Biden. That is not what you thought when Joe Biden was
every
president.
president
You
is
said that is
constrained
not
and
what you
must
said.
be.
You said it was a.
Yeah. So you get the sense there, right? You get the sense there. These people, whatever's more convenient for a narrative they want to push, that's their position, right? This is why they don't want to be tied down by principles, right? Because the ends justify the means. If the ends is, hey, I want a system that I believe is best for the country, regardless if it compromises my principles or not, I'll do it because that's what I prioritize the most, gaining power. Democrats only care about power. Liberals only care about Democrats being in power. And this is what essentially incentivizes them with their very subjective opinions and beliefs to justify corruption, inconsistencies, right? Hypocrisy, because all that matters is, hey, what was the end call? Did we win? Like, their credibility is so down the floor, right? I know they're out to get Trump so much that it's hard for me to believe a Democrat when they give negative news or a negative take on Donald Trump, because in my head is like, yeah, of course you will do that. You're a Democrat. Of course you'll say that. You're a liberal, right? And this is the problem that Democrats are running into. They have a credibility problem. And this is pretty much the whole synopsis of this video, is that even though she's a professor, Kate Shaw is her name, law professor for University of Pennsylvania, right? I should be able to trust her legal advice. But the fact that I know her bias, it makes me skeptical if she say anything negative about Donald Trump, because I've seen the outcomes of this practice already. You couldn't name a single principle, lady? Really? Really? And you're teaching law to the future generations of Americans. And you wonder how we got to this. You wonder how the system got to where it was in the first place. Because people like her are not willing to stand on principles, because these people have no character. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me on the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.